Greetings, ladies and metal gents, and welcome to this latest edition of AETHER, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called A Shrine to a Small God, written by IncongruousGoat. It was on my second day aboard the ship that I noticed a little shrine in the corner of the engine room. It wasn't much of a shrine, really. The pedestal upon which it sat was a standard cargo container. The deity's icon was just a printed image propped up against the wall, and the offerings placed before it looked, for all the world, like a pile of random junk picked willy-nilly from various places around the ship. Old utensils from the mess, spare bolts from the engine room, worn-out cleansing stones from the head. The icon itself was strange too. Whomever or whatever the image was supposed to represent, it wasn't the same species as us. It certainly didn't look like any god I was familiar with, or anything particularly worth revering for that matter. It had seemed to be carrying something, but the object, whatever it was bulky and unwieldy, and certainly not the prized tool of a god. It took me a little while to work out who had put it up, though, given its location, the answer should have surprised me less than it did. It was the chief engineer who had put it up. Not some nervous greenhorn, much like myself, but the chief engineer herself. She left it alone most of the time, only making an offering before attempting a particularly complicated repair. I'd heard of some deities with specific domains before, but a god of complex repairs seemed a bit much. So I set out to ask the chief about the shrine. "This was a long time ago, you understand," said the chief to me when I broached the question at dinner one evening. "I was still in school and had gotten a short-term posting aboard a human ship as part of an exchange program. Ever met a human? No? It's an odd bunch. Real hard to get a handle on their motivations. Brilliant shipbuilders, though. They own most of the shipping in this part of the known space. Anyways, I was all set up to spend a few months aboard one of their freighters as an apprentice engineer. Long haul. We were traveling to some frontier planet, Shatner's World, it was called, carrying supplies for the human colony that had just set up shop there. Tech, mostly. Computer hardware and whatnot. Stuff they couldn't make by themselves. Oh, and all of the bits needed to make a water filtration plant. Pipes, filters, bearings, valves, seals, everything except the walls. Apparently, the colonists had just about outgrown the capacity of their distillation rig and were looking for something a bit less ramshackle. The trip out there started out well enough. A few hiccups with the main drive when we left port, but nothing too concerning. It was when we were 10 parsecs out from Shatner's World that everything went to perdition. One minute we were cruising along at a head standard. The next we'd fallen into normal space, floating adrift. The controls were dead, the drive was leaking coolant all over the engine room. We shut everything down and started taking the drive apart for a thorough inspection. Didn't take us long to find the problem. It was pretty clear what had gone wrong. The drive's core had broken. I mean, completely wrecked, in tiny pieces all over its enclosure. Any normal crew would have probably given in to the inevitable at this point. A ship with a busted drive core ain't going anywhere anytime soon. The subline engines worked, sure, but we weren't going to go to Shatner's World in those before we all died of old age. That human chief, though, he just gathered up all the engineers on board, sat us down at a table in the mess, handed out printouts of every single asset and piece of equipment that we had on board, and told us to get working like this was any other problem. We all sat silent there for a while. Then one of the other engineers spoke up. "I think I've got an idea, Chief," she said. "It ain't pretty, but I'm pretty sure it'll get us to Shatner's in one piece." Before I could ask who this MacGyver was, she launched into one of the most long-winded and convoluted technical explanations I've ever heard. I must have lost track of what she was saying within 5 minutes. I was still a student, you understand, and a lot of it was over my head. The chief seemed to like it, though, and before long we were all back in the engine room with half the contents of the cargo bay in tow. What ensued was and is the finest engineering work I've seen in all my years. Those mad fools jury-rigged an entire drive core, a freaking drive core, a device so precise and delicate in its construction that it normally takes a dedicated industrial facility on a core world to make one. And they made one from some random bits of computing hardware, some low-grade stainless steel pipes, a pile of magnets they got out of the rotator of an electric motor, and a greasy old oil rag. It shouldn't have been physically possible, and yet it worked. We got to Shetlandsville only a week behind schedule. It was there that I saw firsthand the power of MacGyver, god of the jerry-rig, lord of all things made with whatever is on hand. I don't think I'll ever be able to recapture the sublime perfection I experienced there aboard the human ship, but every now and then I see a way to use some bit of hardware in a way that was never intended, or I get a small jerry-rig running just so, and in that moment, I feel MacGyver smiling upon me, and I get back a piece of the glory from that magnificent repair. And that greenhorn is why there's a shrine to a human god in the engine room. End of story.
I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.